Welcome to the Gentleman Badass podcast. Thanks for tuning in. So on this show, we like to talk a lot about fighting. We like to talk a lot about shooting. And one of our other favorites topics is entrepreneurship. And I think today's guest, we're going to be able to get deep into some entrepreneurship. So I'm really excited about it. Today we have Justin Trowbridge. Justin, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So with all of our guests, we like to get a little bit into your background, kind of what where you started out, what kind of led you to be where you are today. So give us a little insight into your childhood, some of the young Justin years, if you can.
Back when I was a little kid. So I grew up, born in Ohio, grew up in Omaha, grew up in Elkhorn actually. Grew up out there and then went to high school in Omaha at prep. So I had a 16-mile commute to the city limit. So I got the farm kid permit at 14.
There you go.
But it was going to school in town. So all of West Omaha was on the way home.
Okay.
So I got into some shenanigans with that, had some fun with it, but went through 4 years of prep, playing football, started both ways for tackle. Ended up being the biggest kid in the city of Omaha at 6'3", 275 when I graduated.
Wow.
Obviously I've gotten a little bigger than that since the days of high school, but went down to KU, played for about 3 weeks down there. Went from the big kid to the smallest guy on the offensive line. And know enough guys with back, neck, shoulder, knee problems and all that it wasn't worth it to me anymore. So became a bouncer for the next 3 years, which is the same thing except for the other guy's drunk. You're making someone move who doesn't want to move.
That's a great analogy.
And then I was an art student, so I was a double threat. So you'd show me an ID and I'd look at it and up the resolution on your printer. Your DPI is garbage. Yeah. You'd catch people and just lies and stuff like that. And that's kind of where I got the real passion for kind of calling people on it, because the idea of having your mouth write a check that your ass has to cash kind of came through with being that big guy, always having little guys try to pick fights with you and stuff like that, but knowing where that capability was and what you could do and what you could say and back it up. But to date, I haven't had the problem with that. I've probably gone into overdraft line of credit once or twice over the years, but then I got into sales coming out of school, got a degree initially in industrial design and technology, was doing, trying to get into defense contracting. So my entire design portfolio was two-faced. So it was, here's a toy for little kids, but it also could be how you would build a crew-served weapon or something like that. It's just this. So I could show up to Northrop Grumman or I could show it to Hasbro. And they both were like, oh, it's a great idea.
Nice.
But I ended up selling liquor, cars, life insurance, financial planning. All kinds of crazy stuff.
I think you were doing the financial planning when we first met. And it's probably been 10 years ago at this
least,
point.
yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So background in sales, at least career-wise. And then didn't you go back to school?
Yep. Went back to school, got a master's in marketing. Originally went back in for the MBA and realized, and it was really initially was trying to get out of sales. I'd worked for enough companies that were 100% commission-based. So, it's an interesting experience when you don't know, exactly how much your next paycheck is.
Oh, yeah.
So had a lot of fun doing that, but tried to do that to get out of that, and then got sucked back into sales. And then, so currently doing business development, using all that background and that diversity and all that stuff, which is fun.
Okay. Where did you do your master's at? Did you go back to KU or?
I went to Bellevue.
Oh, yeah.
So I was in their first cohort program for the master's in marketing. Which is interesting because I was trying to get back into a classroom because I felt like that was going to be a good way for me to do that. And then they did it all online. So it was hilarious because you had to make 2 comments a week on all your stuff because it was a virtual classroom. So people would write very vanilla, very boring stuff, and you would have to take a counter viewpoint to get someone to talk, right? So it was just like, this is a lovely way to do this. And you're like, ugh. This is a dumb way to do this. And that was my comment for the week, just to check that box. And I'd get emails from my classmates like, you're a jerk. I'm like, you have to take a stand on something. You have to say, this is right, this is wrong. You can't be gray area because you can't comment on gray area. And so that's that, a couple of us figured it out. And so we started just kind of poaching each other's posts every week. And it was pretty common, but it was a good time. So.
Okay. So during this time, if I remember right, you were working for PayPal. Is that correct?
Yep. I was a sales guy for PayPal. Claim to fame is getting tactical shit Trowbridge.com through underwriting for using PayPal Express checkout. So
Nice.
got akbuilder.com on there for a while too.
Okay.
Good guys down there, but I was the pro 2A guy that would call up anybody that had stuff online and knew, because I originally started out in the fraud department, really just getting health insurance while I was going back to school. But so I learned how to read through that acceptable use policy. So I reach out to companies that were like, there's no way we can use PayPal. There's no way. PayPal sucks. PayPal shut down my buddy's account. And all. Well, yeah, you sold an AR on Craigslist and used friends and family. like don't be a dumbass, you know, like there's no protection. So, but yeah, I reached out to Trigicon at one point and they're like, we can't use PayPal. I'm like, you're selling optics. You're selling high-end metal tubes with glass in them and LEDs and, you know, tritium and things like that. You can totally sell that on PayPal. Like, oh, well, there you go.
Did PayPal have a policy at the time? No gun company, gun-related stuff?
It wasn't so much gun-related stuff. It was, 30-round magazines, suppressors, solvent traps, anything that said flash suppressor or flash hider. I mean, it was really weird, really, really weird. So like when we did AK Builder, I contacted the brand risk department over and over and over again, and they wouldn't answer my emails. So I called in as a customer might. And like, yeah, hi, can I help you? I'm like, yeah, I was Justin over in sales. I need you to look at this website and tell me what this guy can't sell in this group. Like, yeah, just submit it. I'm like, I have, but you can't hang up on a customer, and I called in on that phone line. So go ahead and pull it up because I'm not hanging up. And 2 hours later, she had gone through every single muzzle attachment and said, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So it was a battle, but it was fun. And my bosses kept thinking I was insane, you know, for doing the stuff. I mean, I reached out to helicopter hog hunting companies like, hey, take PayPal, man, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, we can't do that. Like, you're not selling the guns. You're just, you know, a guide.
Crazy. So we start in sales, go back for a master's in marketing, working in the corporate world. And then when did you switch to the startup community? How did that happen?
So leaving PayPal, I got recruited by a buddy of mine who has a data science consulting company.
Okay.
And you know him, it's Nate Watson. So data science is doing business intelligence, machine learning, artificial intelligence, you know, predictive analytics, stuff like that. I mean, we can do a lot of crazy stuff. We can predict a lot of things that are kind of scary.
Like what?
So like when you're watching Netflix and it pops up with, hey, you'd like this thing, we can do that.
Okay.
You know, one of the bigger data hubs of all that information, believe it or not, Pornhub.
Yeah, no, that's huge in Europe.
Yeah. The data coming out of Pornhub is ridiculous. And you think, okay, it's porn. How does this relate to anything else? But I mean, you can say, what is a 28 to 54-year-old male doing on a Tuesday night? And you can correlate that and other things to Pornhub data. And you can say, he is typically doing this between 10 and 11:30 p.m., typically to this genre, typically to this. I mean, it's creepy the amount of data that you predict.
Wow.
And then you use that with other data sets to predict other behaviors, other things. So.
Okay. So Nate gets, it's contemporary analysis, correct? So Nate gets that company, and then when did you get brought on board?
A little over a year ago, about a year and a half now. Originally, we had built a solution for a Fortune 500 company here in town that they needed to do recall tracking. So it's a food company. They needed to have something that they could say, hey, there's salmonella in these eggs. Let's do some recall. So we realized that we've been building solutions wrong this whole time. We were building these amazing stand-up solutions for, you know, Kiewit, Blue Cross Blue Shield Nebraska, all these other groups, and we deliver it, and then, here you go, have a nice day, enjoy your product. So we went back to this company, and we said, you know what, we're going to keep the IP on this, but we'll build it. You're the first customer. And they said, well, hell yeah. So it was a $400,000 bid internally. It was $750,000 per license if they went through SAP, and it was 70 licenses they needed. So they didn't want to pay that, so they agreed to do that with us. So we built our first solution, which is called Inventory Batch Tracker. As we're doing the marketing and the spin up for that, looking at what other industries to do that, I had done some work as a business development consultant, kind of in between when you and I met to the time I was at PayPal, and realized that hemp was something that hadn't been utilized a whole lot. So we started spinning up a hemp version of it. You know, we're talking to the director of cannabis for the state of New York. I just got a call from the governor of Illinois yesterday.
Wow.
It's one of those things where it's, we're the first one to the marketplace by doing it. So that then turned into Range Tracker, which is a range solution we're building for a company out of New Orleans. They reached out and said, look, we do full auto rentals. We do, if you're coming down here to train, you can either fly with your AR and your Glock, or you can rent it from us. So knowing round count on the barrel, how many rounds are on the trigger, how many rounds are on the optic, tracking certification, testing, all that kind of stuff. It's all built into the system. That then spun into yet another solution that we're working with the USDA potentially to help get kids fed properly in daycare facilities and all that. I mean, it's just, so in the course of a year and a half, we've spun out 4 companies now.
Wow.
So, and it's been a wild ride.
Okay. That's awesome. And so it seems like you kind of found a niche or a niche, however you want to say it. And then from there, basically the same thing applied to multiple different industries. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's with the tracking side of things. So when you track stuff, you build data sets. When you have a good data set, you can then turn around and do all kinds of cool predictive stuff with it. The problem that we were seeing with a lot of these groups and a lot of like apps that people will use that they love for a week and then they never use them again is they build them to look pretty in the front side, and then they kind of baling wire and duct tape the data set on the back together. We're data guys, so we built everything from a data standpoint, so the data is bulletproof. It doesn't look pretty at first, but then as we get users on and all that kind of stuff, we clean it up, make it look prettier. So for us to, like hemp, every state's kind of sorting out what their legality is with hemp and all that right now, and so some requirements or whatever, and in this state and other states are different. So we're able to say, okay, you require XYZ for this state. We change the data set in the back. It's a minor change in the front end versus tearing the whole thing down to the ground and rebuilding it from the ground up because the data doesn't mesh.
Okay.
So that's where we've been having fun finding all kinds of crazy applications for it.
Okay. And then are you doing this all, are you getting VC funding, or are you doing it on your own? How's that working for you?
A little bit of both. I mean, we're getting to the point where some of these things are, the first customer basically covers the majority of the back end of it because we've got the sweat equity in it and the intellectual property and all that. It helps to have an attorney as an owner that does intellectual property too. So we have that major hurdle covered internally.
And how big of a team does it take to create a product like this? I mean, are you working with teams of programmers? Do you have like one guy at his house? Like, how does that? How does that
the
look?
one guy in his basement that's just sweaty and no. I mean, it just depends. Because we have a data science academy where we train people to be data scientists. We have anywhere from 10 to 20 people on the bench at any given time. So we scale up and scale down as we need to.
Okay.
And we just, we rely on people that know what they're doing. So we find people that are experts in their field and we tap them when they need to be tapped. So.
Okay. Awesome. So from running your own startup or multiple startups, now it sounds like, and you've been involved with this for a while, but it sounds like you're going to be getting more involved, helping other people with their startups. So tell us kind of how you got, you're the business development officer for several companies, the companies that you just mentioned. And it sounds like you've helped with other either startup competitions or incubators. Tell us a little bit about that, how you got started with that.
Yeah. So when people hear you're a tech guy, they go, I've got a great app. It's the napkin idea guy. It's here's my app. Well, what is it? Well, it's the Facebook of Uber. And and it's anytime you hear someone say, I'm going to be the Uber of, your eyes roll back. You're like, oh, for the love of God, stop. But the problem with the startup community, especially in the Midwest, is people are super nice, right? It's a good place to live. Everyone's friendly, polite. But nobody says no. And so having gone to some of these competitions where it's like, here's my idea. It's this great idea. I want to do this. I'm going to change the world. It's like, cool. How are you going to find customers? Oh, well, they'll find me. How? I don't know. Well, what about this? Oh, that'll be outsourced to somebody else. I don't want to deal with that. Well, that's like 80% of your business model is that part. Why wouldn't you do that? Well, because it's not my problem. Like, why are you being mean? I mean, it's fun being the bad guy, but it's that bouncer thing in the back of my head, right? Of this idea is horseshit.
Show me your idea.
Yeah. Prove to me that you're actually Mick Doyle, right?
Yeah. Mindy, my wife, was telling me about some examples that you'd recently run into. Are you kind of at liberty to share some of those?
So the most recent ones they're students at UNO, and they are people that are dreaming big. And I'm never going to fault somebody for wanting to go out and do that, because that's a hard thing to do, and that's tough. Saying, all right, I've got an idea. Here's my idea, and the world is going to do what it's going to do to it. But yeah, there were some interesting ideas. There were some that were probably nonprofits that people thought were business models. There were others that were, just minor variations on a product. Some of them were combining a couple things here and there. I mean, it's interesting to see how people's minds work when it comes to, I've got an idea, I want to be an entrepreneur. And that's kind of where that, we'll probably get into it next year, but that's where that came from, is somebody needs to say, look, you need to really refine this. And that's where we started to kind of focusing on that recently. So.
Okay. So what you're talking about is a startup competition that you guys are creating called the Crucible.
Correct.
My wife's actually a part of this. She's on the Council of Assholes, is what you're calling it?
That's unofficially what we're calling it, yes.
It's officially called the Council of Assholes?
Unofficially. We might get some shirts printed up.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, you might be somebody that could be on the Council of Assholes.
I'm good at being an asshole when I need to be. So.
Yeah. Well, and you're a business owner.
Yeah.
So you've had the practical experience of business operations.
I could have done with someone like you when I first started up. It wouldn't have scared me away from doing it, but I probably would have avoided just about every mistake that you can make as a business owner, because my vision for this place, even 22 years ago, most of our friends were like, good luck with that.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
And that's it, is they all said good luck instead of that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And
they probably walked away.
Yeah.
Going, can you fucking believe this guy? He's going to start a gym doing this. So, but yeah, I was actually lucky that I did have some business mentors, because I just kind of fell into personal training some very wealthy, successful business guys. And so these guys would let me kind of fall gently. Mm-hmm. I never really fell flat on my face, but I would trip up and dust myself off. And then these guys would kind of point me in the right direction to avoid falling again. And I wasn't cocky enough to not listen. Yep. So through some will and definitely having some connections, I was fortunate not to burn the place down completely. So this is great that you can kind of mentor people. Yep. And if it means being an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, and my wife texted me. She's like, "Hey, I'm a member of the Council of Assholes." And at first I thought, so she's part of these weird Facebook groups. Like she's like, one's like You Park Like an Asshole, where they take pictures of bad parking jobs and post on Facebook. And there's another one called Link Complain, where people just get on and complain about stuff. So first she tells me, "Hey, I'm part of the Council of Assholes." I'm like, "Okay, I don't care about your Facebook page." Yeah. But then I hear this idea from you, and I'm like, "Oh wait, that's what Mindy was talking about." Then I go back to Mindy and I said, "Hey, do you really think that you can be mean to people and like crush their dreams?" But then I thought, like, she does that to me all the time. Yeah. So I think she'll be perfect for the job. So give us kind of an idea of what the Crucible is going to look like.
So the idea behind it, and the reason why it's called the Crucible, is when you take, metal, right? You take all kinds of scrap metal and you put it in a crucible and you put it under intense heat, right? And it melts out all the garbage, all the stuff you don't want floats to the top. You get rid of it, and what you're left with is a pure idea or a pure piece of metal. So this, it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be just to be an asshole. So the Council of Assholes thing is kind of funny, because I'm sure there are people who will go through this that think you are an asshole for doing this. But our goal is, it's different than a lot of the pitch competitions out there, because pitch competitions are always like, if you win, you get 35 grand. If you do this, you get 10 grand or this, whatever. There's no payout. We have no money to give you at all. Okay. The value to this is you get to go through this, and you'll have a panel of 5 people. You'll have a finance person, a VC funding guy, so banking, funding, venture capital. You'll have a business operations guy. You'll have a strategy and vision person, so somebody that can see what's over the horizon. You'll have a sales and marketing person that'll help you kind of identify those targets. And then, what's the other one I'm missing? I'm missing one here. Forget the 5th one. We'll come back to it. Okay. But you'll have these 5 different people, all of them. Oh, technology, duh. Okay. But you'll have all these 5 people sitting there, and then you'll have already pre-submitted your business idea or idea in general. Might even be under operation now, might be something that's a spinoff, whatever, it doesn't matter. We'll go through the application. We'll have a good idea of what it is. There'll be questions on there that are intentionally pointed. How are you going to find customers? And if you put in, I don't know, probably not the best thing to pursue that real heavy until you figure out how you're going to do that. What's your price point? I don't know. It's fine. You can figure it out later on. Maybe it's $10 a thing, or, whatever. Maybe it's a 99-cent app, which is not necessarily the most profitable business in the world right now. But the idea is if you make it through the application process, you'll come in, you'll have 30 minutes. You'll have a moderator, somebody to kind of help navigate the back and forth and all that and keep things on task. But 5 minutes of presenting, here's what my idea is, kind of a refresher. And then you'll have 25 minutes of fielding some very difficult, very pointed questions about your business. And the idea is we're not going to do it in front of a crowd of people where you're going to be publicly humiliated. We're even going to anonymize the name of the company so that when you see the listing of what time you're doing it, you can do it in private. So if you want to come back and be, Josh's startup every time we do this, you can. Or if you want to be Josh's startup or American Flag 101 or whatever, you can do that. It doesn't matter to us because we'd rather have you come in and get the same experience you had of, I need to fail. I need to fail fast. So I know that I don't burn through $80,000 of my family money, my friends and family that believe in me because they're nice Midwestern people. I need somebody to say, this is a terrible idea. And, you probably won't get to that point if you're actually in the Crucible, but this is a terrible idea. You need to really figure this out. Mm-hmm. And what we want people to do is to go through that process, learn what they can better. Hey, maybe I need to go take this back to the drawing board. Hey, maybe I need to just throw this away completely. I didn't think this through at all, it's just, we really want people to kind of go through it and kind of have that aha moment of, okay, I've got a good idea. And if you do make it through the Crucible successfully, you get on the other side of it. And we've been talking to like Invest Nebraska, the Startup Collaborative. We've been talking to Nebraska Angels. We've been talking to all these different groups that are looking for vetted businesses. Because you go through a startup pitch competition, you'll get a yes or a maybe. Nobody will ever say no. And it's because they have to say yes and maybe because they want people coming back, right? They want them to have that resource. So we're hoping to be that kind of stamp of approval of, you've got something that's got some merit to it, that's going to have some legs to it, that needs to be supported by the community. And then we'll have the community and the supporting people behind that. And the people that don't necessarily make it all the way through, we want them to reach out and go, hey, you told me my idea was a piece of shit. Yeah. Why? Help me make it not a piece of shit. And then we work with them and help coach them and get them resources and stuff like that. So
it kind of sounds like tough love. Honestly, it's not being mean for the sake of being mean.
Nope.
It's being mean for the sake of breaking something down to its foundations, building it back up so that it's stronger from where it started with, which is a lot of what we do in this gym for individuals. Honestly, 100%. I mean, it's not helping them with their business, but it's helping them with their bodies and their martial arts skills and all that. So, when it comes to new entrepreneurs, what would you say maybe the top 3 problems are that you see when they're coming up with business ideas or proposals, or, where are they weak? And that, let's say they're thinking of maybe joining Crucible, what should they really focus on shoring up?
The biggest thing is reality and expectation, right? The biggest thing we see, especially with being a tech company, is, I'm going to make an app. Great. It's going to be 99 cents. I'm going to make millions of dollars. Well, that happens a lot. People make 99-cent apps and they don't always do stuff. And, you look at some of the apps that are making billions of dollars. I mean, Facebook, it's a free app, right? It's not the 99 cent per thing that's the thing. It's the $4 subscription on the back end or whatever that actually makes the money. So, and to build an app, depending on how complex it is, could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, So what you see a lot of people do is like, I want to build an app. You're a tech company, build me an app. Josh, you got a laptop there, build me an app. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't have any money, but I will make you a owner in that company if you do all the legwork for it. Yeah. Which, it makes sense because it's what you got. But we're hoping with doing the Crucible thing that you'd be able to get beyond that stage instead of just giving up equity, that you could find the people that want to invest in it from a legitimacy standpoint. Okay. The other thing is realizing what is a not-for-profit and what is a for-profit entity.
Okay.
Especially with some of the competitions and things I've been through recently, you see people crossing those gray areas, right? It's I want to help the homeless community. That's great. I should totally help the homeless community and all that kind of stuff, but you realize there are 10 or 15 organizations in this community already that are doing that, that adding a 16th version of that doesn't help anybody, you know? Nebraska especially is great at wanting to help and do those kind of things, but we don't look around and we don't see what's already out there. So,
but wouldn't you say that that's kind of the mindset of most entrepreneurs anyway? Is they're not really looking around? They kind of have blinders on, kind of eye on the prize, and their thing is the best thing, and it's going to be better than anything else.
Which is healthy.
How do you break that down?
Yeah.
How do you kind of show them on the council of assholes?
That's the hard part, right? Is you have to have that belief in yourself. You have to have that sense of pride and that sense of, you know what, this is a bad idea. Well, fuck you. I'm going to show you that it's wrong, right? So I've always jokingly said, this is the first time I've said this in front of an Irishman, so we'll see if I get punched here or not. But I say I'm Irish. So if you tell me I'm wrong or I can't have something, I'll die proving you wrong. But if you told me I can have something or that it's free or whatever, I'll say, what's wrong with it? Why don't you want it? So, you know.
No, that's true. It's pretty much spot on.
So, you know, that mentality is not a bad thing to have, but you have to be, you know, the blinders and the focus and the drive is a good thing, and you want to foster that and support that. But you also want to say, hey, turn your head 90 degrees. You know, it's the, you know, like when you're doing tactical training, you're doing, you know, drills and all that. It's actually getting the tunnel vision and checking to your left and your right and things like that. It's, you know, when you're doing MMA, it's kind of, you know, making sure that you can see what's coming from the sides and all that instead of just looking straight in front of you the whole time, because maybe there's an opportunity to sweep a leg or something that you would never see if you're just focused on the guy's neck. Gotcha. So, but
you can always sweep the leg, Johnny.
Always sweep the leg, Johnny.
None can defend.
Yeah. But the hard part is people don't look around for, like, we'll constantly hear people like, God, if there was just a hot wing place here in town. It's like, there's like 10 hot wing places. Like, how do you not know? Well, we don't have a wings and rings. It's like, of course we do. It's out west. Oh, I live in the Northeast, so I don't ever get to see it. So it doesn't exist. You know, it's in Omaha. You know, it's right there. Or there's only a cool place that you could hang out and walk around at night and maybe go on a horse-drawn carriage or something like that. Yeah, it's called the Old Market. It's been here for hundreds of years. Oh, I live in Elkhorn. I don't go past 90th Street, so it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, but those kind of things happen a lot, especially in startup. This doesn't exist. I haven't looked yet. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It just depends on the idea.
Well, I think, you know, you have to have that belief in yourself, but once again, you have to be able to think around the problem. If you're so focused on, and anything in life, if you're so focused on one single thing, you're not going to see what's in the peripherals. You're not going to see the potential problems. I think some of the best entrepreneurs are probably capable of doing that. But they also surround themselves with people that help them do that. You know, I can't remember who I've heard it said, but you know, the best startups aren't generally one person. It's generally teams, two people, because they can kind of cover each other's backs and shore up the weaknesses. Nobody's going to be good at everything. So it's kind of having that team around you. So it sounds like the Crucible could be the very beginning of that team, even if you're coming in and helping teams that are already established. So
yeah, and we're hoping that, you know, people will go through this knowing that it's going to be challenging, knowing that it's going to be an uphill struggle, but at the same time knowing that if you can get through those kind of direct, pointed questions when you have an idea that's a fledgling idea, that you could then go and pitch to Walmart or pitch to, you know, ConAgra or whoever. Because they will have the same questions, if not easier, which is kind of what we want. Is we want people to really go, God, I would have never have thought of that.
And it's free, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll have an entry fee to get into it.
Okay.
But we will make sure that we ply people with alcohol and things like that at the end to make them feel better. Actually, speaking of which, a little segue for a second. So I did try to bribe you guys with alcohol to get on this podcast.
Yeah, it worked.
Just to know, he's the one who screwed it up.
Yeah.
Because he's on this alcohol
non-drinking thing?
Well, yeah, he kind of, not that Josh has a problem or anything like that. Let's put that out there.
Yeah.
But as part of just kind of the mind fuck things that we do to ourselves, and
I gave up alcohol between my birthday and St. Patty's Day, so I've got another month or so, a little bit more than a month before I can drink
so
again.
when I was
anyway.
in Scotland and Ireland, I bought land in Scotland. So I'm officially a laird of both Glencoe and Lochaber, Scotland.
That's awesome.
nice.
Like truly, and my family lineage is back to Clan Campbell, which is the bloodiest massacre in all of Scottish history. Just a fucked up weird past, but it was kind of fun being, I'm a Campbell. People are like, oh shit, that guy. So we hit the Singleton of Glenord. You can buy whiskey in that distillery, or you can buy it in Southeast Asia for $1,000 a bottle. To my knowledge, I have the only bottle in the Midwest. The other bottle that my dad had broke in his luggage.
Oh no,
Man.
So he said it was the most heavenly. He hasn't thrown away the suitcase yet. He goes in and he'll sniff it every once in a while. So I know you're not drinking, and I know you're going to a range here in a bit. So we want to be responsible with that. But I want to double the number of bottles of the Singleton of Glenord 18-year-old single malt Scotch in the state of Nebraska. And I want to do it with you guys because you did this. So what I have is the second only bottle of the Singleton of Glenord.
Oh, wow.
So it's a little dropper. So I'll give it.
nice.
That's awesome.
So you guys can get a little.
I have to hide this on my wife because I just have visions of her coming out going, I put those eye drops in my eyes and I can't see.
Why are my eyes so peaty and smoky? Oh.
All right, hang on, I have to smell this.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's phenomenal whiskey.
Don't spill that or I'm going to be.
Ooh. Josh.
Yeah.
I mean,
One more month.
A single drop, does that violate the pack that you have? That's why I put it in an eyedropper.
At least
I'll
the
just smell.
You drop down, I'm going to kick your ass.
Oh, yeah. That smells good.
So I have about a half a bottle left, but obviously for you guys, if you wanted to have a little drop or something like that, that's for
Awesome.
A wee dram.
a wee dram, as they say.
Yeah.
We will definitely do that. Well, one thing I thought might be kind of fun, and you can turn it down if you want, but I thought, what if we put ourselves through the Crucible? A one-man council of assholes, me and Mick, with our business idea of the Gentleman Badass podcast.
You want to put the actually through that, or just me as the guy being the jerk?
Well, we'll just kind of, you can ask us questions as if we're bringing the Gentleman Badass podcast. Because honestly, we don't really picture this as a startup. We hope it would make a profit someday, but right now it's more of an educational tool.
Yep.
But I think it would be interesting.
Yeah, we can give it a
fun
shot
for the audience to see.
Other than knowing you guys in general and knowing kind of some of the previous guests you've had on, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what we got. So
Okay. So yeah, basically Mick and I have this business idea.
Mm-hmm.
We want to start this podcast called the Gentleman Badass Podcast. The idea is, we see a lot of problems in society today. Society today. I felt like I was kind of I don't know, victim is not the right word, but I was a part of those problems for a while. I think I fixed those or helped fix those problems by coming into the gym and learning some of these martial arts and the warrior ethos. And so we wanted to create a platform to share that. So that's kind of where we've started.
Yeah, we were upset that being masculine and exhibiting masculine traits was almost being shunned and not encouraged.
Yep.
With young men, and not even just young men, but adults too. And I grew up, I've been doing martial arts since I was 7. I grew up following the Bushido code, the warrior's code, kind of the way of the warrior, which was the ability to be able to, like the samurai, take a life and then draw a beautiful painting or be able to write poetry, but yet have this, Jekyll and Hyde type of personality where you can kill a person or you can write a song and sing to them. To me, that's like the ultimate in masculinity. And I saw a movement happening over the last few years to try and make that kind of extinct.
Yeah, stamp it out.
Yeah, so our podcast was kind of our shout out to, hey, look, there's people like us, and there's a lot of people like us that are masculine, exhibiting masculine traits, but we're good husbands, good dads, good business guys, good entrepreneurs, good employers, like you name it,
Mm-hmm.
that are out there, and we have a voice too. And our mission, I guess, with the podcast was to get that voice out there and then connect with other voices along the way and just kind of spread the message like, hey, we're not really a minority. We're just, some of us are just a little quiet and we need to make a little more noise. So that was our idea in the beginning. I would say that it's even evolved now just based on the types of guests that we have reached out to even have. What are we on right now? Our 22nd episode at this.
Yeah, I think we've got almost 30 recorded.
Yeah.
I think we just released 22 or 23. So.
And we've even seen the vision for this thing even change to include more content and stuff like that may be coming along the way.
Yeah.
Unless the Council of Assholes shoots it down.
I love that I'm a one-man asshole.
Yeah.
Well, so I get the first question is always going to be, how do you make money?
Okay. So there's, with a lot of things, I don't envision a single stream of income. I'm seeing multiple streams of potential smaller income streams. So the goal is at the beginning to kind of build the audience. We have to create good content. I think we have access to people to interview that are going to draw people in. And so once we can get an audience, we hope to attract some advertisers. We've had a couple. We've made some dollars through advertisement. Another potential income stream is YouTube. I've made money through my personal YouTube account with a monetized account. Now, the Gentleman Badass account isn't quite to where it could be where we can make money that way.
Yep.
But if you start getting 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 views on videos that you're putting out, you can make, a decent little income stream on the side from that. Patreon is another potential where we have people that would actually subscribe and pay monthly. So we've created a Patreon. We yet to have any patrons. We haven't pushed it that hard, but you can get on there and sign up for anywhere from $1 a month to, up to like $100, and then there's certain rewards for different tiers. And
merchandise.
Then, merchandise. We've got merchandise for sale on the website, as well as affiliate links. So we do like a book of the week every month. So that if we do get a good sized audience going to the website, they decide to buy a book that we recommend, we get a little bit of a kickback from that. They buy a t-shirt or a journal, we get a kickback. Well, we make profit from that. And then I've even considered putting more of an affiliate store online in that, hey, this is the geese that we use. You can go to the Gentleman Badass affiliate store and purchase that. So that hasn't happened. And honestly, the only revenue we generated so far is from advertising. So right now the goal is to build the audience and create, good content, better content, and make it more.
So why hasn't that happened yet? If you've got the vision, the planning, and all that, why hasn't that, the marketing and the affiliate links and the store and all that kind of stuff, why hasn't that really kicked in if this is a serious business for you?
Probably time right now.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to get people really engaged, and we're trying to create content. I think I've got some ideas for content that will get people more engaged. But yeah, getting people to listen is difficult to start with. And then transitioning people from listening to buying is more difficult ever still. So I think the key for that is to continue creating good content, continue trying to create better content. We used our advertising dollars to buy better cameras so that we can create better videos for YouTube. And I've recently spoken with a video producer to start creating actual higher quality video, some scripted videos and whatnot that can potentially bring more of an audience in and kind of create that cycle that we were talking about.
So going for the audience, going for the group of people, how are you spreading the message? How are you getting people? Because who's the target demographic of that you're trying to engage with, right? I mean,
I would say the target demographic is probably teens to men in their 30s to 40s. We could potentially have older men, but I would say,
although just in the people that we talked to that are listening to it, we also actually have a lot of women who are telling their husbands about it also. So I wouldn't say it's exclusively men, because I think what we're finding out, at least in my experience, is that there's a lot of women who are elbowing their husbands going, hey, check these guys out. Like, why don't you get off the couch and go,
Yeah.
And so I would say the audience is anybody that needs that message, or is in a position to influence somebody that maybe hasn't heard us yet to.
So if the audience is somebody that needs to be influenced by the idea of a gentleman badass, which is, by the way, a great title for all that kind of stuff. If you don't have a gentleman badass gi yet, like a true, like braided up thing like that, that would be awesome.
We're actually working on that with, oh my God. No, I just drew a blank. The artist.
Dave Koenig.
Oh yeah.
Koenig. Yes.
Koenig.
Dave Koenig.
Yeah.
So Dave Koenig, I'm letting out a secret right now. Dave Koenig is actually drawing up a jiu-jitsu themed. It's coming, and it'll be fucking amazing.
That's going to be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does good work. Yeah. So the thing that I see you guys are going to struggle with is you're looking for people that are needing to realize that it's okay to follow the Bushido code, to be the warrior poet, to be that person. Which is kind of being suppressed by society right now. You've got a lot of people that are saying it's not okay to do that. It's, I get it a lot for, buying a suppressor, right? Why did you buy a suppressor? Because I can and because I need one, Why do you need one? Because I have the money for it and I like doing it. So, why do that kind of stuff? So people are going to be poking holes in it and shooting at you the whole time. Finding that audience is going to be tough. And opening it up to men, women, the age group and all that stuff will definitely help. Finding a way to connect with them, whether it's, do you know if the people are all local here? Or are they across the United States or?
Yeah, we're starting to see, it really depends on the guests. So we have certain guests that bring in
the international.
Yeah, the international. I mean, we had Martin Stapleton, who was a fighter in Britain, and he was really good in helping us promote through his social media. And so we had probably 7 different countries where we were getting decent, viewership and listenership based on the data. So
cool. Yeah, the biggest thing is, finding what's that tipping point from this is a thing that we do and we can squeeze it in to this pays the bills, this lets me do the things that I want to do, this keeps my wife happy. This keeps me in the house that I want to live, in the lifestyle I want to live. And finding that tipping point, finding that, is it a ridiculous marketing presence for your merchandise? Is it the Patreon format? Is it you do a once a month meeting? Is it something like that? Is it a subscription where you get, challenge coins or any kind of crazy stuff? You get this kind of inner sanctum, inner knowledge base. That's going to be what really changes it. And it's tough because you got to figure out what that initial launch is.
I would say one of the things that's kind of surprised me in our audience and the people that are actually listening and the people we run into in the wild that are listening to the podcast, we have a lot of first responders, veterans, and military listening.
Cool.
And so I like that idea of, I know like Art of Manliness podcast has what he calls a strenuous life. It's based off of Theodore Roosevelt, and it's basically doing hard things as a group. So that could definitely be something to look into.
We were actually, myself and my good buddy Kevin Newman were about ready to run a camp back pre 9/11. I think I told you about it, where we were going to basically take a bunch of men and just shake their world up for about 4 days. Essentially kind of like an outward bound type. Kevin is a master graduate of Rapport Leadership School. He's a retired general. So he's done all of the Army's leadership. And between him and I, we had written up a syllabus. We were all set to go on this. We actually even were recruiting people for the first class. We were going to do it out at Camp Ashland. And then 9/11 happened. And then Camp Ashland became this sometime military base, now into kind of the National Guard headquarters and full military base again. So we couldn't use the high ropes tower and all these other things that we had written into the syllabus. And so we just kind of shelved it, but we've actually been talking with Shay about 88's Tacoma facility.
Yep. I actually did their civilian SEER up there years ago.
So similar to that, maybe without the evasion part, but all of the other things that happen in a SEER course, just kind of the nature of it, about shaking your world up and seeing what you're really made of, that type of stuff is definitely something. And now, I believe that everything happens when it's supposed to happen. You mentioned the name, the Gentleman Badass. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, we couldn't figure out, 2011 what to call this fucking thing. Yeah. Now we already know. Like, it'll be something about the Gentleman Badass. So, I mean, there are some things that we've talked about doing, but the bottom line, yes, we would like to monetize this because our time is valuable. We recognize that it's a commodity. However, the message and the voice that we wanted to kind of the echo that we wanted to start reverberating around was like, calm down, people. It's okay to be manly and what's his name? T-Max's basic dude stuff. Mm-hmm. To be able to do that kind of stuff and like, it's okay. Don't be ashamed about that. Don't hide that. Yeah. Show it to the world, and the world's actually going to be a better place.
It's funny you bring up the thing, because so I did SEER. They did a competition, 88 Tactical, for videos and all that. So the one I put together was me all dressed up in tactical gear, holding the AR and all this, and I had chickens in the background, and I did it like a bad dub over. It's like, you should not let this guy do it. And knowing Shay and those guys, they were like, we were all cracking up. We thought it was the funniest damn video. And then the other guys that are friends of mine, they're like, that went through the class with me, they were like, I want to do this because I want to be a better person. I want to be ready for survival and prepping, or my family means the world to me. And here I am being that asshole who's like, he owes me $5. Let's get a picture. He owes me $5. Don't let him do it. Whatever. But I walked into SEER knowing people that went through it, knowing I spent 2 weeks learning how to get out of zip tie handcuffs, which is a weird skill to have at this point in your life, right? But so if anyone's going to do that, I won't spoil the reason, but it's a good trick to know if you're going to do a survival class like that. But going in there, you walked in there, you didn't know what it was, you were scared, you were nervous, and then you're going through it, and there was a point where Devin Crinklaw, I think you guys probably know Devin, mm-hmm. D was one of the instructors, and it's 4 a.m, we're bombing down a dirt road, and where everyone's just amped up, and D's like, get your breathing down, get your heart rate back, all this stuff, and he goes, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm cool as cucumber, let's go. And it was just, but from the Friday night to that Saturday night was such a huge difference, because I finally had a chance. I had something that let me kind of realize that I was going to make it through. And it was you started out the weekend as the nail, and then by the end of the weekend you were the hammer. Mm-hmm. And the way that I've approached things after that experience is completely different, because as a lineman, you get hit in the face, you get hit in the throat, probably like you guys with fighting and training a lot. You get beat up, mm-hmm. but you get back up and you do it again, and you love doing that. There's something weird about having been a bouncer. You get punched in the face, you feel alive, right? But it has to be socially acceptable to punch someone in the face. That does not mean either of you can punch me in the face right now.
There's actually a study, I just shared it with my wife, that was just done, you may have seen this, about that men are designed to punch men in the face for sexual prowess over females. Mm-hmm. That we have been genetically designed to swing a punch in the hunt to have a mate.
I guess I need to work on my striking then.
Yeah. Huh?
I need to work on my
Josh
striking.
is doing it all wrong.
Work on your ground and pound.
He spent 8 years learning jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. But that kind of thing is it's kind of back to what you guys are doing, is punching people is not socially acceptable. It's kind of like it's frowned upon, but not illegal. You can scream profanity at a small child, right? But it's just a bad joke. It kind of fell flat on its face. But, punching, having been breaking up fights, having had bottles broken on my head, having people do all kinds of stuff, haven't been shot at. that kind of stuff. You come out of that, you feel alive. And and when you come out of that triumphantly, especially as a guy in a society that says sometimes it's not okay to be a guy, you feel like a whole different person. I've had like clinical depression off and on throughout my life. When I was doing those things, it was less of an issue because I always had that, hey, I made it through that weekend, or that guy hit me in the face with a bottle and it didn't break, went straight down the crown of my head, and things like that just makes you feel alive. It makes you feel.
Well, we've got a saying in here: train hard, win easy. And I think that goes for a lot of different things in life. You train hard in the gym if you're a fighter, and hopefully your fight is easier than the training. I mean, the goal is to make the training harder than your fight will ever be. And it sounds like that's the idea of the Crucible, is that for these startups, it might not be a comfortable experience, but if you can throw yourself, kind of put yourself through the fire of the Crucible, with people potentially breaking down your goals, and if you can be strong enough, you can have the fortitude to kind of muscle through that, see the error in your ways if there are any, and come back stronger, then you're going to be able to win a whole lot easier than some of the people that have never been through that.
Yep. Yeah. When I first got into financial services years ago, I got in during the financial meltdown. So it was great. Everyone I had as a client made money with me because they had nowhere else to go. But I've known the Landon family with Security National for years, and went and talked to Jim. And I said, Jim, how do I know if I'm going to be a successful financial advisor? And he says, you know what? If you can get hit in the face by a 2x4 and get back up and do it again tomorrow, you'll do an awesome job as a financial services guy. And that's exactly what it was. I mean, I was a rookie advisor when the market was down 777 points in a single day.
I remember that day.
And I was like, is this normal? Like, I had no idea. And, but I mean, that's what it was. I mean, you had to get up, brush yourself off, get back in there and do it again. And you heard no a lot. And that's what we're trying to do with the Crucible, is we want people to have a safe environment that they can fail. They can fail privately if they want to. If they go through it and they never tell a single soul they went through it, that's fine with us. If they go through it 6-7 times, because we'll do it periodically, and they want to let people know they're doing it and they're doing it, that's fine, because that will have a merit to itself, we hope. So
perfect. So if people are interested in checking this out, do you guys have website, Facebook? Where can they go for more information?
Yep. So we've got startupcrucible.org is up and running by the time this releases.
Okay.
It's up now, but we'll be fleshing it out here in over a couple weeks. And then we're looking at trying to see what the response is going to be, because we have enough people that are going to feed us, people that are in that idea stage. We don't know if we're going to need 1, 2, 3, or 4 panels of people to do it. So that's where, as a business owner, you've been through it. You know what's the things that surprise you. I mean, you have a gym, right? You'd think it'd be super easy to just set up a gym and run it, but it's way harder than that. There are things that came out of left field and hit you hard, I'm sure. So
yeah, and actually, some of it was the advice of these very successful guys. Like, probably the big example is the name of the gym. So when I first had the gym, it was Midwest Fighting Arts Academy. And it was that for years. And our focus was fighting. I moved in here 20-something years ago, and I'm struggling. I'm one of my clients who, very successful entrepreneur here in town, I think at one point he owned like 18 McDonald's restaurants. And he loved the place, and he loved what it did for him, and he actually had his management team training with him here. And I went to him one day and I was like, Bob, what am I doing wrong? I feel like I'm working hard. I feel like I'm doing this and he said, well, if I were you, he goes, the first thing I would do is I'd change the name of your business. And I was just like, yeah, but we're like, it's a fighting gym. He's like, yeah, it's the problem. I was like, what? And he goes, you need to put your name on it. And I was like, no way, that's an ego thing. I don't want my name. And he's like, no. He's like, you are a brand, whether you like it or not, and you need to put your name on everything.
Yep.
And I fought that for back and forth, training with him for about a month. We kept talking about it. I was like, I don't want my name on stuff. That's weird. I like my privacy and it's an ego thing. And he's like, no, it's not. He goes, McDonald's is a brand. Everybody knows it. And he goes, you need to start building your brand. Otherwise, you're just another fighting gym. And so I reluctantly gave in, changed the name of the gym. And this is back before the time the internet was exploding. Our phone went fucking berserk. And I'd pick up the phone and people would be like, you know what? I've heard about you. I just didn't know that you had a gym in Omaha. I didn't know where your place was. And I was like, fuck. And I hated to admit that this barrier that I'd put up myself because I thought ego or whatever. And a pure business guy was like, nope, we come here because of you, not because of the walls and what's in it. We come here because of you. And then kind of another thing that happened is once my name was on it, I took better care of it too, because it was my fucking name. It was my reputation. So everything about it had to be perfect. And I was probably hiding in the background behind the other name of the gym, and things could slide because it's just a gym. But when it became my name and my reputation, then that took on a whole other level for me of, oh shit, it's like I have a baby and the DNA test just proved it's mine and fuck, I gotta raise this thing. I am the father, and I gotta raise this thing. And it just like, it got real fast. It went from kind of being a little toy for me to work out and have training partners and all that to, oh shit, this is it. Because if this place fails, my name fails with it. And I just couldn't let that happen.
And you're a perfect example of why asking for that kind of help is perfect, right? You're somebody that has fought for decades, right? You're somebody that isn't afraid to step in a ring and start throwing punches and get hit in the face and break something or hurt something. I mean, you might have a psych out moment here and there. I mean, I won't say you're perfect, but I know you are the guy that so many people in this community look at like, guy knows his shit, knows what he's doing because you've been there and done that. And when you reached out to him and said, hey, what am I doing wrong? Even for you, somebody that is willing to go through fire and hell and all that kind of stuff, it felt weird and it felt insecure and it felt vulnerable.
But I also knew that those people had my best interests.
There you
go. And that it wasn't going to cost them anything or me anything really. And I was at a point where I was desperate enough to take on anything that somebody told me. Except the name thing. And that was the first thing. And he knew it. He's a smart dude. He knew that the biggest obstacle wouldn't be you need to change the color of the wall. You need to soften the place up. He knew that stuff I would probably do. But he knew that the biggest thing would be me changing the name of the place. And
that's what we're hoping to do at the Crucible is get somebody that regimented, stabilized thing of saying, all right, because the steps to get into it are that daunting, hey, should I change the name of my gym? And if you're willing to go through those steps, because that's why there's a fee to get into it. Because if you're not willing to put, $100 down or whatever the fee ultimately ends up being, then you're not serious about your business. If you're not willing to list out all these things that you're probably not going to know the questions. There's probably 30% of the questions I have no freaking clue how I'm going to get that solved. But to ask somebody or to go and hit somebody up or hit a mentor or find a mentor or ask for a mentor. That's something that people never do is ask for a mentor. Hey, will you teach me how to do this?
That part was easy enough because I'd always had coaches. So I understood the role of a coach. And at that time, I felt like I needed a coach in this area of my life. So I wasn't afraid to ask for the help. I was afraid to hear what they were going to say, and I think that's probably the great thing about the Crucible is that you get to be honest, like you're not emotionally attached to these people, but you'll tell them from your perspective, like, hey, here's what I see. Honest.
Yeah. Well, we are starting to run out of time. Were there any kind of final thoughts, any things you wanted to cover before we closed up?
I actually have something I want to kind of come back to.
Yeah.
So the data thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you were basically you are in the business of people's information.
Yeah.
Which is a huge, like with all of the Equifax data breaches and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember, I read somewhere about the bits of data that you can find on a person, just even on something like truthfinder.com or some of these websites. It's like thousands of bits of information
Oh, yeah.
on a person. Are you worried by that? Or do you ever see a time where it becomes more regulated? Or is it going to go the other way where it's just going to be a free-for-all?
Well, let me answer that by pointing out something that almost everybody that's on Facebook does. If you've ever taken a quiz that says, what kind of potato am I? You've given up a ridiculous amount of data. Mm-hmm. Cambridge Analytica, that everyone hates, and like those evil monsters, they were doing that. What kind of Disney princess are you? That kind of basic stuff. When you layer in 2 or 3 different data sets, you can predict all kinds of stuff. So we did a good example of layering in data. We worked with a company hey, we have these 2 data sets. We've never tied them together. We don't know what it could mean or anything like that. So there's an NDA, so I can't tell you who it is. It's a fast food chain, Mexican place. We'll call them Burrito Wind Chime. Maybe you can connect dots surreptitiously, whatever. I don't care. But they had their drive-through data and they had their window data, their point of sale data, and they'd never married the 2 together. So we built a machine learning, which is just pairing. It's kind of borderline AI, but not. There's a difference there. But we started saying, all right, so you drove through at 5:01, hit the order thing at 5:03, picked up food at 5:06, drove off at 5:09. Transaction, cash paid, whatever. So the system went through and said, here you go, here's all this stuff. Easy to figure out. Then it started looking at, well, tacos, anyone who ordered a taco was an average of 3 minutes longer than people who didn't order a taco. And we started looking at what variable data sets and all that. Well, a taco, because we're Americans, top to bottom, left to right, that's how we read. So they had the taco in the bottom right-hand corner of the menu. Even though people knew it was there, they had to read the entire menu and, I'll take a taco. That 3 minutes then compounds the next person in line, the next person in line, the next person. That's how you get the lines around the corner, right? The other thing we found that was totally unrelated, that we didn't know what it was when we first saw it, was somebody would pull up at the window, at the ordering thing for 10 seconds, at the window for 30 seconds, $80 worth of food would come out and they would drive off. Well, we started trying to figure that out. We went back and said, what the hell is this? And they go, that's fraud. Easy. Like, what? Like, yeah, someone walked up and said, hey, it's me, it's Josh. Sorry, you didn't see the bus coming, did you? No. Hey, it's Josh. And then Steve inside would ring up 80 tacos, put them in a bag, hand them to Josh, void the transaction as a typo or an error, and then he would get away with free food.
Damn.
But that kind of data, it was there right in front of their face. They had no idea it was there. And we started kind of pointing out other stuff. And truthfully, they're like, you can see that? Like, yeah, it's all right there in black and white in the data. To predict the things, to predict the kind of people we could predict the kind of people that need to come to this gym. And it gets crazy. We're actually working with some human trafficking stuff to help predict and help find that.
Awesome.
We're looking at building AI to predict and find different things. And it's data is the new wild frontier, because there's a lot of things you can do with it, and a lot of stuff it's borderline scary. So the only things we won't touch are pre-crime, predicting crime, and pornography. And the porn, because it's just, you kind of don't want to be known as the porn data guys, right? We'll do hemp. That's no big deal. Yeah. Hemp is hemp, but you don't want to be the porn data guys.
Yeah. Well, I've heard Seth Godin, talk about this and the idea of privacy. And he's like, we all lost privacy years and years ago. He said, what? And for the most part, we're okay with it, and we actually appreciate it, whether or not we'd admit it. When we go to Amazon and it suggests things that we like, versus, if I were to go on to Amazon and it would be, posting, tutus and pom-poms and stuff that I'm like, it would annoy me. So if I go to Amazon and it's showing me things that I like that. He said where the problem comes in is when it surprises people. When it surprises, like when I'm getting tattooed and I'm having a conversation with my tattoo artist of like, would you rather be killed by a bear or a pack of wolves? And then 5 minutes later, I get on Facebook and it says, hey, check out this video of a pack of wolves fighting a bear.
Oh, and bear sales on spray on Amazon,
And, I don't like that, right? But, it's just one of those things where I think we lost the privacy a long time ago, and that data can actually be used for good things.
Yep.
And for the most part, we're okay with that as long as it doesn't surprise us.
A good story for data prediction is not us, a different company, looked at health insurance records. So from a health standpoint, and they said, so people that have dialysis have a port that's put in. Usually that port's put in when they're in the emergency room, or they're sick, or they're starting to get towards the very end of their life cycle. Well, when you put that port in and you have all those problems, that port gets infected. So most people die from the infection because of that port being there before they die from the dialysis side of it. So using data, using prediction, using little red flags in someone's health history, they can say, all right, Mick, it looks like you're going to have kidney problems here down the line. We're going to put a port in today. You put the port in while you're healthy, or relatively healthy. You don't have the infections. Your body can adjust to it while you're healthy and strong. And then as you start to decline with your health, they can do dialysis, and it can add 5 or 10 years to someone's lifespan. Wow. And it's just from data points saying, hey, go talk to this guy about this problem. We did some work with Builder Trend here in town where we looked at churn. So here are the things that people do before they stop paying for the subscription. And that was before they even had the full license of this data science platform that we work with. They had figured out it was something like $15 million that was saving them every year. And if they get half of that back, it's a game changer for the company.
Yeah, well, I think, one thing I say all the time is people are predictable. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff that you can predict. And so honestly, if you're annoyed that you're driving in traffic, you probably just weren't paying attention. Or if you're annoyed that there's a line at Kohl's or wherever you're shopping, you probably weren't paying attention. And I think, utilizing the data is just going to help us go further down that road.
And you guys do it when you fight too. If a guy drops his hand before he throws a punch, that's just predictive data in your head.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's crazy. But yeah, the privacy thing, just, at a certain point, you just got to realize we're all human beings. We all do weird stuff that we're not proud of, and just don't document it directly. Don't videotape the really deviant stuff.
Don't Facebook Live it.
Yeah. Thankfully, we're all old enough to have not grown up with Facebook, where that is all.
I'm so thankful I didn't have Facebook as a kid.
I find Polaroid pictures every once in a while, and I have to burn those.
Oh, yeah.
What was I thinking?
Yeah. I've actually thought about that. I was home in December. My mom passed away, and we're going through all these photographs. And I'm looking at some of these photographs going, glad that's not on Facebook. Glad that's not on Instagram. Yeah. Scary.
Awesome. Well, Justin, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really looking forward to seeing what's going on with the Crucible, how it plans out, and then also just how these businesses work out for you. So
we're
exciting, and thanks for giving us the time today.
Yeah. Thanks for the whiskey.
Yeah, no problem. You have to let me know what you think of that.
Absolutely. You'll probably get to try it before me, but
tonight.
You better not drink it all.
I'm sorry that it's just a few drops, but
okay. It is quite literally a wee dram.
It is a wee dram. I was going to wear the tactical kilt, but I didn't today because I figured I'd be sitting here probably in the gym, and you just don't want to show your plums today.
I've seen worse. I think he knows a story. We actually played at a Highland Games festival.
Nice.
And there was an after party afterwards where our band were performing to the competitors of the Highland Games who were wearing kilts and sat like this. So yeah, it was
funny kilt story. You know who the number one problem is when you're wearing kilts? Women lifting them up.
Oh yeah.
Every guy that wears kilts has slapped some woman's hand who's trying to lift the like, what's underneath here? If I did that to you, I'd go to jail.
My answer is, what would you wear under your kilt? Socks. That kills it.
Nice.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you next time.